your legal help. Then you asked him, what was the crime alleged against you? This, that I shot someone, I picked up a gun and all that. Then, what did your client say? My client said, I'm innocent, sir. Then he called you to meet him. You went to meet him in jail. You met him in jail. Allegation will be made against you as a lawyer that you are helping them. In Chhattisgarh, one doctor, Vinayak Sen, you've heard of this case, Vinayak Sen? It is alleged against him that he took a letter from a hardcore criminal. He's a doctor. He's a doctor. He was called in as a doctor to give medical advice. It is alleged that he took a letter from that man and went out and gave it to somebody else. Where is that letter? Somebody else has it. It was never found on him. It was never found on him. It was found on some third party. Read that letter. Read that letter. Letter is an ordinary kind of letter. So even assuming he took that letter from there, today he's under a terrorist offense. Should Vinayak Sen's arm be broken? Should Dr. Vinayak Sen's arm be broken? Should his eye be taken out? Should acid be poured into his eye? Should a patent be put up his anus? Should his wrist be cut? Should his arteries be cut till he bleeds? What are you saying? Think carefully, my dear friend. You're a young people. Think carefully. Should a woman be raped in a village? I gave food to the Nazarites. I agree I gave food, sir. But if I don't give food, what can I do? I gave food. They came in the night. Don't villages give food to Nazarites? And is that what you want? You want to give the police powers to rape and kill and break and all? Do you want to give those powers to policemen? Why? Because they've got some prima facie evidence. Who decides prima facie? Policemen. Policemen will decide prima facie. You know your Indian police. There is a method of legal torture. You take a man's life by a judicial process. It comes to the court decides. The court decides. The court will take your life. Either by hanging you, which is a torturous process, or by giving you intravenous poison, which is a very torturous process. There is legal torture in our country under the constitution. Hanging is torture. What else is it? But you want to give policemen here? You want to give a non-judicial, non-legal process? You want to give them the right to think about it very carefully. Think very carefully what you're saying.
I would only ask you to test what your opinion that as students of law, in which provision of law you find that the accused can be tortured? I would be happy to know that. Which is that provision of law in which an accused can be tortured by the police? Because they have a prima facie evidence.
No, what you are saying is the law should be changed, right?
No. I don't think that they have that opinion. I think what they are speaking from is from their mind, not from their knowledge. As law students, you must know what are the provisions of law. You must be able to protect the rights of your client when they come to you, and not have this opinion that because what you feel, it should be done. You must recognize law. You must know what are the provisions of law. What rights have been given to an accused by the process of law, by the provisions of law, instead of having your own opinion like this.
That I think that human rights activists are somewhat biased. They feel only one side of, they think and they talk about only one side of society. Actually, we should also think about the person. Actually, the person who are sitting at that level, who like a policeman also. They are only the person who go to court with these terrorists. Actually, human rights also deals with the rights of terrorists. So they should also look upon the rights of the policemen who go in front of them and they fought with them. They also save the lives of the many people or the villages. So we should also think about their rights. They are also having a family members. They are also having childs in their family. So we should also look to their rights also.
Correct. And we do. Let me clarify something so that we understand, okay? Suppose as an upright police officer, He's fighting against, let's say, a Pakistani terrorist. Correct? Pakistani terrorist takes out his gun to shoot the policeman. Policeman takes out his gun and shoots the Pakistani terrorist dead. Is it lawful? Perfectly lawful. Is it legal? Perfectly legal. There is a section of self-defense. His life was threatened. He used appropriate force. He shot him dead. Let us take a second example. Before he can take out his gun, the Pakistani terrorist, let's say, shoots him dead. Shoots him dead. Should we look after his family? Should we look after his children? Should the state be responsible to look after? 100%. Will a human rights activist fight for that? 100%. Why not? We are not here to castigate all policemen who are giving their life for the country. No. Who are fighting against genuine terrorists and who are putting their lives at risk. We are not against them at all. Why should a human rights activist be against a genuine upright police officer? You need law and order in every society. You need upright officers in any society. Whether it's capitalist society, socialist society, any society. But what we are against is that I catch you, you are a suspect. I catch you, I take you, I start beating you, I torture you in the hope that I will get some information. 60% chance I'll get no information, 40% chance I'll get information. Maybe the percentages are interchanged. We don't care. You have no business taking a man in your possession and torturing a person. You have no business taking a man in your possession and then shooting him dead and throwing him in the jungle. No society can last with a police force that does that. The whole of Europe polices its. There are terrorists in Europe. Advanced investigation techniques, advanced police methods, advanced police trainings, interception of mail, interception of phone calls, DNA testing, snooping devices, where you get permission from the magistrate and you put bugs in your telephones and so on. The magistrate authorizes it. An application is made, a prima facie case is shown, a case of urgency is shown, the magistrate authorizes it, you bug your devices. You trace the man with cameras, you trace his car wherever he goes, you put a bugging device under his car, you trace the car wherever it goes. Advanced techniques, DNA testing, such a solid piece of evidence. Say I'm an accused person, I catch a woman. Just my hand on his shirt, DNA testing of that shirt will show that it came from me. Just my hand on a woman's shirt. Just one touch. And they'll do DNA testing and say it came from Gonsalves' hand. So the whole of the democratic world uses techniques to catch terrorists. Terrorists are not only in India, we are there in Europe in very large numbers. So think very carefully. We've raised many of these issues. I want to give you one puzzle, one legal puzzle for you to think, and tomorrow we will discuss this puzzle in detail because we'll put it into the session now. Just give me I'll take the puzzle, I'll take the question. Israeli case. People come with their dynamite strap, human bomb. Correct? This is not a human bomb case, this is a ticking bomb case. Right? Israeli police have caught a Palestinian. That is, Israeli policeman suspects that Palestinian knows about some human bomb somewhere else. He says, if I am allowed to torture, I'll break one arm, I'll break one leg, I'll cut off his testicles. Then he will give me information regarding an attack of a human bomb in a cinema hall somewhere, which I believe is going to take place. Give me permission to torture. Ticking bomb is called a ticking bomb scenario. Got it? Got it? I can see many of the students agreeing already. If you all are judges, my dear friends, we are finished. Our country will get finished like this. Permission to. Maybe don't give me the answer now. You think about it. And we'll have two little debates tomorrow. Those who are for and against, we'll have like a little moot court. This is a case that came before the Israeli Supreme Court. I'll tell you what the judgment of the Israeli Supreme Court also is tomorrow. But this is the case. You're a judge. Will you grant permission to torture in the case of ticking bomb scenario? Where the policeman says, by torturing this one man, I may save the lives of 100 people in that cinema hall. Okay? We'll take one question from here, then we'll stop.
If capital punishment is justified in case of damage activity, if in cases of damage activity, is capital punishment is justified? Because human rights are linked against the capital punishment. But as far as the rest of that case is concerned, like damage activity, raped the innocent girl and then brutally killed her, is it justified?
So there is a great debate going on as to whether really capital punishment should be retained at all in the first place. So whether who has done this distinction, who had created this distinction of rarest of rare? It is the Supreme Court. Again, it is some rule of the thumb that rarest of rare. Again, what is rarest of rare? Nobody can really straitjacket it. There may be given circumstances, depending on the facts of the case, that you define it as the rarest of rare cases. And if really we could, that is what tomorrow I think we are going to see about, I don't know, different tangent judgments. I don't know, I'm not very sure. But anyway, there is an issue outside of combat law you can go through. I would say quite usefully. Where there are tangent judgments coming from the apex court also, it becomes very difficult for a trial lawyer really to ask what exactly is the law. Because given circumstances which are given for rarest of rare, I could point out another case in almost similar fact situation is available and it was not held to be rarest of rare cases. So again, it is a very subjective element which is present in any criminal dispensation of justice. Therefore, it is very difficult really to retain capital punishment only on the ground that rarest of rare. Who defines rarest of rare? That debate could go on endlessly.
But, okay, let me raise the second issue for us. So today and tomorrow we'll... there's one more, but I'll just summarize this and we'll... How many of you here feel death penalty is justified? We should have death sentence. How many of you feel we should have? Strongly feel we should have? Right? How many of you strongly feel we should not have? Not bad. Not bad. So we have this. We develop this and we move today and tomorrow. We create some space for this debate. Right? The question you asked actually basically relates to that. Whether we should or should not have the death sentence. So we take it. Somebody wanted to say something.
Sir, in Kashmir,
Just one sec, yes.
in Kashmir, we have seen that lots of human rights of our pandits are also violating during stand-up-speech. So, in Kashmir, lot of our Hindu pandits are killing by the terrorists. So, why we are not concerned about that?
Of course we are concerned. Why do you think we are not concerned? Why do you say we are not concerned? Of course we are concerned. If people are pushed out from their homes, we are definitely concerned. Any human rights activist is concerned. In fact, human rights groups in Srinagar would be concerned also. And they would raise the issue about the pandits.
I guess we are going to extreme, like breaking his hand and raping a woman and using a baton to torture him. But in case, if we can give some bit of liberty to the police that they can torture these people to a particular limit, then we can at least give them some peace.
Electric shocks.
Give them some peace to do that. Because in this way, we are just pampering these people of India.
Pampering.
We are pampering them. A kid who is given all the bonds and who is never beaten in a home, he goes wild. But once he is beaten at a right time by a right person in a right building, the rest of his life,
Yes, yes.
he goes straight.
They were tortured.
That bit of fault has to be given to the society and that bit of fault has to be given to the police.
What you are saying is Sonarana can't dosle bhai.
Also, you must think carefully. We are laughing, but you must think carefully.
Tomorrow, yes.
We appreciate your question, and this is a democratic forum. And we are laughing, but you must think carefully. Because these are very obnoxious views, let me tell you. Let me tell you one thing. If you were to go to Europe, and you are applying for your LLM there, and in an interview, they ask you, what is your view on torture, and you say this, you will be immediately rejected. Why I am saying this is because cultural values relating to dignity, values relating to non-harm, values relating to torture are an absolute value in the professors, among the students, everyone. In our country, we are a barbaric country. We believe, use the Latin, like you say, beat the child. Start by beating the child. If the child is not beaten in the home, he will run wild. Policemen take out the lathi, beat. We see beating everywhere. You are a young law student, you will see beating. But do we stand up and tell that policeman? Do we catch that policeman by his collar and say, how dare you beat? See your railway station, the policemen come early morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock in the morning. Hut, and beat. Poor people, beggars, they beat. We are educated people, we are pampered people, all money, everything we have got. Mobile phones, everything. We will watch the beating. And then we will sit in the place where the beggar has been sent out, isn't it? Think about your views very carefully. We appreciate you raising questions, and questions should be raised. Death penalty, torture should be raised. But think very carefully. Because tomorrow, my dear friend, you will be at the wrong end of the stick. Don't think you'll always be on the side of the watcher. No. Tomorrow, middle class people. Remember that industrialist who was killed in Kerala? What was his name? That famous industrialist, his wife is now standing for elections. Pillai. Pillai. Anyone, let me tell you, the moment you give license to beat legally, you will not be safe. Let me tell you. Unless you're a policeman, you will not be safe. And if that is what you want, that is what you will get. No problem.
But don't you think about the protection that has been given by our constitution? When you think about this, doesn't it occur to you that our constitution has given protection to all the citizens, including an accused, to have a right to live with dignity, be not to be tortured, be not to be punished without there being a process of law? Don't you recognize that?
At the same time, even in the law system currently in India, we see that sometimes when the situation demands, we also encourage the use of violence, like in lathi charges and golibaars. Means when the situation completely demands that. But this is the case where mob is creating such kind of situation. But when a person is a threat to society, when a person strongly feels that this particular person can be a threat to society, or he can stop something or stop some other person who is a threat to society, by some degree of not exactly violence, but some degree of pressure which is not exactly currently being used, we use against him.
Anyway, think about it. Let everybody else.
So let us talk about legal procedure and process that is available. I think there are a lot which can be used for investigation, even in the current process. We need not use any torturous method. And it's not that by using torturous methods we are getting conviction. I have seen even the person who goes to lodge a complaint is tortured. Is cross-examined, is not believed from an influential family, so you may be hurt. It's not always that you believe. Then how do you feel? That I am already suffering and I am not believed. How does it make you feel? It doesn't make you feel very much. So it's not, see, the process of law provides for these measures for investigation. Why don't we use them carefully? Why don't we use them effectively? When it comes to giving evidence, even we don't stand there and give evidences against the accused persons. Have we been able to question ourselves? As a common citizen, if we have witnessed something, don't genuinely come up and say that yes, I have witnessed. Because even the witnesses will there first. So if it lies something in the process of implementing law, that is what we have to be careful. As law students, we must know what is the legal provision and where are we going wrong in implementing it and how best can we do that.
But keep these questions alive.
On behalf of our team from HRLN and for this very interactive session. Now we will move to our next session on right to food. and I would like to invite Ms. Pulka Mahajan and Lakshmi Narayan Dasaria.
सगळ्या राज्यात आणि केंद्रशासित प्रदेशात चांगल्या रीतीने राबवा, म्हणजे कुठे ना कुठे थोड्या प्रमाणात का होईना भूकबळींचा प्रश्न हा निघून जाण्याला मदत होईल. त्यासाठी योजना निहाय काही मांडणी इथे दिलेल्या आहेत. त्यातलं PDS मध्ये त्यांचा उद्दिष्ट वगैरे क्लिअर आहे की लोकांना भूक निर्मूलनाचा त्यामागचा हेतू आहे की रेशन दुकानाच्या मार्फत गरजू लोकांना पर्टिक्युलर किलो म्हणजे 35 किलो धान्य या रेट्समध्ये म्हणजे वेगवेगळ्या कॅटेगरी जसे अंत्योदय योजना वेगळा रेट आहे, अन्नपूर्णावाल्यांना वेगळा रेट आहे, असं वेगवेगळ्या रेटचे सगळ्यांना धान्य द्यायला पाहिजे. हा त्याच्यामागचा सगळ्यात महत्वाचा उद्देश होता. टार्गेट आता बोलण्यासारखं म्हणजे सगळे जे वल्नरेबल ग्रुप आहे आपल्या सेक्शन मधले त्या सगळ्यांना या यंत्रणेमध्ये घेऊन त्यांना धान्य वगैरे पुरवा असं त्यांना या संदर्भातले ऑर्डर्स, शासकीय निर्णय वगैरे वगैरे सगळे पेपर म्हणजे डॉक्युमेंटरी भरपूर आपल्याकडे आहेत पुस्तकांच्या माध्यमातून किंवा रिपोर्टच्या माध्यमातून आपण बघू शकतो. त्याच्यानंतर ह्या थोडे डिटेल्स आहेत की पर्टिक्युलर योजनांमध्ये काय असायला हवं, त्यांचे उद्दिष्ट काय आहेत आणि त्याचे क्रायटेरियाज काय आहेत, लाभार्थ्यांना कुठल्या पद्धतीने निवड करायचं वगैरे हे सगळं या प्रेझेंटेशन मार्फत आपण बघू शकतो. या PDSच्या नंतर लहान मुलांचा जो प्रश्नोत्तरसाली योजनेला खरं तर सुरुवात झालेली आहे. दिलेले आहेत जसं 0 ते 6 वर्षे मुलं, किशोरवयीन मुली, स्तनदा माता, गरोदर स्त्रिया या सगळ्यांना सुद्धा सप्लिमेंटरी न्यूट्रिशन आणि त्यासोबतच्या त्या योजनेमध्ये काही काही वेगळे बेनिफिट्स आहेत या सगळ्या त्यांना पुरवायला पाहिजे आपण असं सुप्रीम कोर्ट सांगतो. यामध्ये सगळ्यात एक ICDAच्या संदर्भात एका ऑर्डर संदर्भात खास करून इथे बोलणार आहे. त्यात तसे मला वाटतं भरपूर एक 10-15 ऑर्डर्स असतील, पण 13 डिसेंबर 2006 जो ऑर्डर आहे तो म्हणजे तो कमी मला वाटतं आता डिसेंबर 2008ला तो सुद्धा संपेल. त्या ऑर्डरची व्हॅलिडिटी म्हणजे एका हिशोबाने जर म्हणलो आपण तर ते संपेल. कारण त्यांनी 2 वर्षापूर्वी जेव्हा ऑर्डर पास केले तेव्हा म्हणलं होतं की आपल्या देशात 2001चा सेन्सस जो आहे त्यामधल्या जर आपण नंबर्स घेतले जनगणनेचा वगैरे तर त्यानुसार 14 लाख अंगणवाड्या आपल्या देशात पाहिजे आणि त्यावेळेला मला वाटतं 8 लाख का 7.5 लाख अंगणवाड्या आपल्या देशात होते. पण या ऑर्डर नंतर केंद्र सरकारने काही राज्य सरकारने थोडंसं स्टेप्स पुढे जाऊन काही अंगणवाड्या सँक्शन केल्या. त्यातल्या काही प्रपोजलमध्ये पेंडिंग आहेत, काही ऑपरेशनल आहेत त्याच्यामध्ये. तर ओव्हरऑल असं आतापर्यंत जी माहिती आहे त्याच्यामध्ये अजून सुद्धा येत्या 5 महिन्यात 3.5 लाख अंगणवाडी आपल्या देशभरात सुरू व्हायला पाहिजे. जी मला वाटते म्हणजे सुप्रीम कोर्टच्या कमिशनरच्या रिपोर्टमध्ये ही गोष्ट मेन्शन केलेली आहे की 6 महिन्यात 3.5 लाख अंगणवाड्या सँक्शन करणं आणि ऑपरेशनलाइज करणं ही फार कठीण गोष्ट आहे. त्यामुळे ते टार्गेट ते लोक पोचतील तिथपर्यंत किंवा नाही हा गोष्ट वेगळा, पण तेवढं व्हायला पाहिजे असं सुप्रीम कोर्ट सांगतो. त्या संदर्भात त्यांनी याच्यात म्हणले असं सुद्धा म्हटलेलं आहे की या अंगणवाड्या सेंटर जेव्हा आपण आयडेंटिफाय करतो ती एरिया सुद्धा म्हणजे प्रथमतः अनुसूचित जमाती SC ST हॅबिटेशन्सला आपण प्रायोरिटी द्यायला हवी. आणि जिथे ऑर्डरमध्ये म्हणल्याप्रमाणे 40 पेक्षा जास्त मुलं वगैरे आहेत तिथे अंगणवाडी ऑन डिमांड म्हणजे आपल्याकडे 40 मुलं आहेत आणि त्यांच्या त्या एरियामध्ये जर अंगणवाडी नाही तर आपण त्या ठिकाणी CDPOनं अर्ज करून अंगणवाडीची मागणी करू शकतो आणि 3 महिन्यात तिथे त्यांचं सेंटर उपलब्ध व्हायला पाहिजे किंवा ऑपरेशन सुद्धा व्हायला पाहिजे. म्हणजे टेक्निकली ऑपरेशन सुरू व्हायला 7-8 महिने लागतात, वर्ष लागतात असं आम्हाला ICDAच्या ऑफिशियलकडून कळतो. पण नेमकं कोर्टाच्या ह्याच्यानुसार 3 महिन्यात तिथे अंगणवाडी सेंटर एस्टॅब्लिश व्हायला पाहिजे असं ते म्हणतात. त्याच्यासोबत दुसरं मिड डे मील स्कीम आहे ज्यामध्ये पण यात सगळ्यात महत्वाचा आता रिसेंट जो डेव्हलपमेंट झालेला आहे एज्युकेशनली बॅकवर्ड डिस्ट्रिक्ट असं एक आयडेंटिफाय केलेले आहे. त्यातले 10 जिल्हे आणि 43 तालुके असं ते करून तिथे इयत्ता 6वी 7वी 8वीच्या मुलांना सुद्धा दुपारचं जेवण दिलं गेलं पाहिजे असं स्पष्टपणे सांगितलेलं आहे. आता त्याचं इम्प्लिमेंटेशन किती आहे म्हणजे ओव्हरऑल आपण एक लक्षात घेतली पाहिजे काय आहे तर मला वाटतं तो तेवढा व्हॅल्यू नाही आहे त्याला. तर आपल्याला स्कीमच माहित नाही की हा याची गोष्ट आहे ती. त्यामुळे स्कीम्स आपल्याला बेसिकली समजून घेणं सगळ्यात महत्वाचं आहे. याच्यामध्ये सुद्धा दुसरी एक प्रायोरिटी आहे की मध्यान्ह भोजन योजनेमध्ये जे बचत गटांना वगैरे जे काम दिलं जातं किंवा तिथे जे स्वयंपाक करणारे ज्या व्यक्ती असतात त्या सुद्धा त्यांच्या नियुक्तीच्या वेळी सुद्धा SC ST लोकांना प्राधान्य दिलं पाहिजे. म्हणजे ते मदतनीस किंवा कुक जे असतात त्यांच्या रिक्रुटमेंटच्या वेळेला सुद्धा SC ST लोकांना प्राधान्य दिलं पाहिजे. पण असं कुठे घडत नाहीये. आणि मला वाटतं आपण जेव्हा अशा फोरममध्ये बसतो, स्कीम्स माहिती आहेत, त्याचं इम्प्लिमेंटेशन येतात, ते ऑन बिहाफ गव्हर्नमेंट येतात आणि काही रिकग्नाइज्ड इन्स्टिट्यूशन्स आहेत त्यांचे रिपोर्ट्स जातात आणि त्याच रिपोर्टच्या बेसिसवरती ती लोक ऑर्डर्स वगैरे करतात. त्यामुळे म्हणजे परत एकदा मी सांगतो की आपण जेव्हा अशा फोरममध्ये बसतो तेव्हा आपल्याकडील माहिती ही तिथपर्यंत पोहोचणं महत्वाचं आहे. तेव्हाच खरं इम्प्लिमेंटेशन काय आहे किंवा नाही आपल्याला कळून चुकेल. त्यामुळे दुसरी PM योजना राष्ट्रीय मातृत्व लाभ योजना प्रयत्न केला होता. मध्ये एक ऍप्लिकेशन आलं होतं त्यांच्याकडे की आम्ही ही स्कीम बंद करून जननी सुरक्षेच्या नावावरती वगैरे चालू करू असं. कोर्टाने ते 6 महिने वर्षभर तो ऍप्लिकेशन ऐकल्यानंतर आता 20 नोव्हेंबर 2007 त्या ऍप्लिकेशनचं जजमेंट दिले. त्यांनी स्पष्टपणे म्हटले की दोन्ही योजना सायमल्टेनियसली चालायला पाहिजे आणि कोर्टाच्या प्रायर परमिशन शिवाय तुम्ही सोशल असिस्टन्स प्रोग्राम मध्ये कुठलीही योजना बंद करू शकत नाही. कारण आपलं महाराष्ट्र गव्हर्नमेंट GR आहे 2005 की आम्ही केस पेंडिंग आहे तिथले ऍप्लिकेशन फाईल केल्याप्रमाणे तो राष्ट्रीय मातृत्व लाभ योजनेला जननी सुरक्षामध्ये कन्वर्ट करून आम्ही नवीन योजना काढतो वगैरे वगैरे. पण सुप्रीम कोर्टाने त्याला आता सगळं फोडून टाकलेलं आहे त्याच्यामध्ये. कारण त्याच्यामध्ये बरेच अटी सुद्धा आहेत. जसं आता गुगलवर सर सुद्धा मला सांगत होतं की नागपूरसारख्या शहरात किंवा गडचिरोलीमध्ये सुद्धा अजून लोकांना माहित नाहीये की वयाची अट 19 वर्षे मुलीची असायला हवी असं NMBS सांगतो किंवा ते 2च बाळंतपणापर्यंत ही योजना लागू होणार आहे असं महाराष्ट्र गव्हर्नमेंटचा जो एक्झिस्टिंग पॉलिसी आहे तो सांगतो. पण कोर्टाचा आदेश जरा कुठला